I am Chester Dunham, and this is the Dunham Report, a marketplace of ideas and information for labor, civil rights, and other issues of social justice. I am Dunham, and I'm the host of the show, and my co-host is Mr. Wesley Crenshaw, and tonight we have with us again, and that's none other than Mr. Grover Thornton. Mr. Thornton, we are delighted and glad to have you on with us tonight. You're part of the show, so I can pretty soon I'm going to be talking about you going to be a regular, not a guest.
Well, so I'm glad to be here again after so many years. You and I worked together.
All right.
On the show. And I'm happy to be here tonight on this marvelous show.
Very good. Thank you. We appreciate having you. And we do have again a dynamite show for you, the visiting our visiting guests, and hoping that tonight you will get something out of the show. We have a lot of information to share with you all. We are going to be talking about this election a great deal, although most of it is over, but then it's still not over because a lot of things are taking place and putting in place and all of this sort of thing. And again, Wes, you and Mr. Thornton, we do have places all around the United States that they are still counting votes and still having runoff and all of these sort of things, and it's sort of interesting. We're going to start out tonight with the state of Mississippi, and we're going to be talking about that. We talked about it a while back on West, if you remember, and we said the same thing to the viewing audience, that it's a possibility that if things work that the way it did, that it will have a runoff. And what you all who are listening, that why this is a runoff in the state of Mississippi, because in the primary election, they had 3 individuals who were running for office. They had 2 on the Republican side and 1 Democrat who were running. So in order for them to eliminate or have this runoff, it was nobody in the primary who got 50 plus 1 vote, the percentage over 51, and that's what it took. So the 2 people on the Republican side, it caused us now to have this runoff in Mississippi now, we are talking. And that's for a U.S. Senate seat from the state of Mississippi. And I'm going to run this down to you. They said, U.S. Senate seat for the state of Mississippi. The incoming U.S. Senator from the state of Mississippi, who is a Republican, her name is Candy Hyde Smith. And Mike Epstein, I think his name is, he is a Democrat. And these 2 are running, and they have forums and various things and talks in the state of Mississippi now. And the reason for this runoff is because, like I said, they had 3 people. So what the newspaper said was, it was 37% of the likely voters would have voted for the incumbent, Ms. Smith. And then they look at Mike Espy, that he had I think he had something like 27 or 28% of the likely voters was in favor of supporting him. So then they had another person who was a U.S. Senate, not a state senator from the state of Mississippi, and his name was McDonald, I think his name was. But anyway, Chris McDaniels, and he had about 15 or 16% of the voters likely would support him. And then they had another 15% or more who was undecided, which brought it out to 100%. So now that's what's happening now with this runoff, and it's going to be interesting. I happened to look at some of it the night before last, very interesting in the state of Mississippi. Now, SB, his background is that he was in the Congress for about 10 years or longer than that. In the U.S. Congress, he represented a portion of the state of Mississippi as a congressperson. He did a lot of things in Washington. A whole lot of things. I have to check up on his record and things that he was involved in. And then he became the agricultural secretary under Bill Clinton. And he was that for a period of time. And now he is back in the scene, and this is what he's running for U.S. Senator. He has all the expertise. He is really good, smart person. And so looking at it, Wes, and I know you had some information also, Mr. Thornton might want to say something too, that in the first place, Ms. Smith, I looked at her and even the expression on her face, it's she just looked mean, like I don't know.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, I mean,
terrible looking picture.
That's right. Now she is the one that there was getting some pressure from the people around Mississippi and the people around the country about a statement that she made.
Racist statement.
Yes, about this.
Lynching.
The hanging. Yeah, it was in some type of setting. I don't know exactly what it was. Wes, you have anything on that when she was and the way she acted, and she was other words, the what she said in a sense that if she was really somewhere and they was fixing to lynch somebody, for a matter of fact, she would be on. She had right. She'd be on the front seat.
Something of that nature.
And that was her statement. Then she came back later and tried to change it and
clean it up.
Like that, clean it. Yes. But that's what she said. Now, they talk about different things, and everything they talk about, this guy, Mike, was on fire. And when they accused him of something like that, he'd clean it up when he rebutted, and call her a liar right to her face, because that's what the heck she was doing mostly. And it seemed like she was on there really as a Trump supporter, because a staff person of his, not like she was running for U.S. Senator to represent the people from Mississippi, because it seemed like she was on there really just to really represent President Trump and all his ideas and everything else. But they have a lot of information on it, and the people in Mississippi have a lot of information on her too. So they'll be talking about that for the next few days, because the election is real soon. And the time is running out. 27.
November 27th.
Okay, that's going to be
That's coming right up.
Tuesday, So that's going to be very, very interesting. And so it's to see how, what happened there in that state.
Well, let me.
Trump done been there already again.
He's going back
and
twice.
supporting her and all of this. And this is another thing that I keep saying, and I'm going to continue to say it. Maybe somebody will pick it up later. But we need to put some law or something in place and stop letting the president and vice president and everybody else spending up the taxpayers' money, running all over the place to support somebody. If they want to go and support somebody, take their own money and get off and go and support them. But it's on the payroll and taxpayers' money, and every time that Air Force One and stuff fire up, it costs us some money. And that's what's happening now. We need to maybe enough people start talking about it and look into it. They need to do something about it. Wes?
Well, let me just talk a little bit about Mike Espy. Okay, Espy was born in Yazoo City, Mississippi. He is the grandson of Thomas J. Huddleston Sr., founder of the Afro-American Sons and Daughters, a fraternal society that operated the Afro-American Hospital, a leading provider of health care for blacks in the state from the 1920s to the 1970s. Epstein attended Howard University in Washington, D.C., and was active in student politics, holding several selected positions, He earned his Juris Doctorate from Santa Clara University School of Law in California. Now, having said that, he had a lot of corruption, and he has been charged with a lot of corruption, but he has been vindicated all along.
Right.
They've not found him guilty of anything. And in the early years, Epstein was an attorney with Central Mississippi Legal Services between 1978 and 1980, and was later the Assistant Secretary of State to Mississippi Legal Services. Epstein was the Assistant Secretary of the State to the Public Lands Division. Now, Epstein was an Assistant State Attorney General from 1984 to 1985 in the Clinton. But that's basically what he has done. Now, he was charged with 27 counts of corruption, and he was cleared of all of them. And so they're always trying to come up with something.
Yeah. He also was it was something with the government. He went there and cleaned all of that stuff up when he became Secretary of State. Agriculture under
yes.
In the foreign country over there, one of those countries over there, and because he went in there and didn't know some things was happening that some of those other countries and stuff dealing with agriculture and a lot of other kind of stuff, and he cleaned that up.
Let me just tell you something tell you how difficult it has been for him in Mississippi.
Okay.
It is in 1996, Sun Diamond Growers was fined $1.5 million for giving Epstein $6,000 in gifts. In March of 1998, he wanted a reversal at the Court of Appeals level. Independent counsel sponsored the appeal that ruled in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court affirmed the decision of the Court of Appeals, finding that the gratitude statute required a link between a gift and an official act. Unable to make such a link, sponsored dismissed the gratitude case against Sun Diamond. The court's unanimous April 1999 opinion stated that the prosecutor's interpretation of the law was so broad that even a high school principal would be in legal trouble for giving a souvenir baseball cap to a visiting Secretary of Education. He was later cleared of all charges. Now he has been several times. He's had situations where he's been charged, but he's not found guilty of any of them. But he has done a lot of legal work on the local level. We know about Georgia Legal Services here. They have those same things in Mississippi, which he's done a lot of work in.
Hey.
Now, as far as Miss Hyde is concerned, Miss Hyde has been she has been a member of she has been a member of the National Rifle Association, of course, and she's really just closed herself close to Donald Trump. Let me see, she was an American politician. She was a junior United States Senator from Mississippi, in office since April 2018, a member of the Republican Party. She was previously the Mississippi Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce and a member of the Mississippi State Senate. On March 21st, 2018, Governor Phil Bryant announced his intention to appoint Hyde Smith to the United States Senate seat being vacated due to the resignation of Thad Cochran. Hyde Smith was sworn into office on April 9th. She is the first woman to represent Mississippi in Congress. Wow, I didn't know that. Hyde Smith is a candidate in the U.S. special election for the remainder of Cochran's term, which expires in 2021. She finished first in the jungle. I looked at this. She finished first in the jungle primary on November 6th. They call it jungle primary because she's finishing out a special term. She finished first in the jungle primary on November 6th, but did not get more than 50% of the vote. She will face Democrat Mike Espy in the runoff election. But I want to get to that point where she said she wouldn't mind going to a lynching. The interesting, Trump did not support her. He supported the McDaniels are against her.
Okay.
But she still won.
Okay.
Look at this. During her first term in the Mississippi Senate, she offered an unsuccessful bid to rename a state highway in honor of Confederate President Jefferson Davis.
Mm-hmm.
She really was in there. And look, this is what he said. On November 15, 2018, Hyde Smith appeared in a video clip saying that it would be a great idea to make it more difficult for liberals to vote. Her campaign stated that Hyde Smith was making an obvious joke, and the video was selectively edited. both this and the public hanging video was released by Lamar White. I haven't heard of him. You know Lamar White? A Louisiana blogger and journalist. But anyway, the race has tightened up significantly since she's made those racist remarks.
And you know, these are the type of people that if they can put a law into place, which is a lot of people are trying to do that, they will then have certain class of people to vote. And the other one, they just wouldn't let them vote at all. In other words, it would be something like in biblical time, the Sanhedrin Code or what have you, that they'd put aside a certain group to control and do this and do that, and the other one could be involved somewhere. And that's what she is about. That right there.
Well,
and even that's what we're going to be talking about in the state of Georgia. These kind of things, and they try to dress it up and all of these kind of things.
But you see,
we're going to be talking about that too.
But you see, Mr. Dunham, in a democracy,
okay,
excuse me, you cannot have that in a democracy because we can't have a caste system. It's just that they have manipulated, they have suppressed, and they have denied people of color to vote for years and years. That's why people don't understand. It was a hard struggle. Black folk could only vote for president years ago in the 40s until the Primus case, which was in Texas. And that's when black won the right to vote in the Democratic primary. These people use all of these tactics, suppression. You have all kind of ways. How many bubbles in a bathtub, how many jars of jelly beans in there, and all that kind of stuff to deny you the right to vote. I remember years ago, that was down in Mississippi. That is the only state in the world that I don't ever want to visit. Never in my life. It's the worst. Alabama's terrible, but Mississippi's worse than anything.
Mississippi worse than Alabama?
Look what they did, man. They lynching people. You just say the lady said that she was that opinion. They've done all type of things. I remember reading a statement once, and I hate to say it, but it's the fact. And that is this. I remember reading the man said, racism is a part of America's culture. It is persistent, it is continuous, and it's divisive, and the last thing, it is permanent. Permanent. We've made a lot of racism, a bunch of people. Just give an example, during the presidential election. Now, Ms. Clinton won 3 million votes, more than Trump. 3 million.
That's right.
More than Trump. And of course, he tried to say things were wrong, fraud, all that, because she got all the popular vote from him. He was able to sneak in there because of the Electoral College, you know that. But the fact of the matter is simply this. They have tried all their lives to keep us out of political arena. And that's why black folk got a right to vote. That's why we got to vote. Now, it's going to take time, but sooner or later, not my time, your time, but it's going to change because in the next 20 years, maybe 3 or 4 years already gone by, the people of color will be the massive the majority in this country of vote. Then things will really change. Then they get an opportunity to see how it was when it all was the opposite side. But the democracy, I have never been able to understand. I have never been able to understand how you said you got a democracy and you have apartheid. I mean, how can you mix those two? Like all in water. You got a democracy, talk about all the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, where I already say all people are equal and all of that. And I can look at that movie of Lincoln, where Mr. Daddy Stevens said that we're not equal in all things, but equality under the law. And we have never had that. As a black race, we have that. Look at the Voting Rights Act. They pull out the most important part in there, the preclearance.
That is correct, and that's what we'll be talking about. We can't talk about it because we got so much. But you are so correct because and people need to understand and a lot of folks, I mean, people on the other side, conservative, and it doesn't matter what color you're with or party, but they need to understand the rules and laws and what happened. And like you said, because when the Voting Rights Act was put in place, and especially when Johnson went back and they went back and redid the Voting Rights Act, and Section 2 is the section that's dealing, in other words, it declares it's supposed to make a even playing field for everybody. Under Section 2, if they make a mistake, they violate your rights, or did this and did that, they're supposed to clear it up right then, or either stop whatever to make sure that things are in place. So they mess it up so bad, just like you said, all those like they put the various sections in there dealing with, and right now, just in the other day, when the Supreme Court went back and revisited the Voting Rights Act dealing with the case up in, well, they had one up in Mississippi, not that Mississippi, Alabama, and with that particular, and that was the one that's dealing with the pre-clearance.
Where was that, the Shelby case?
Because see, what the rules were, because I used to wonder what time when we used to always arguing, so why the president or somebody got to come back and every 20 years or something like that and
get an extension.
And all this kind of stuff. But then later, when I really understood this, I see what they were doing, because that's why they had to put that section in there, Section 5.
Yep.
Now, in this case the other day, the Supreme Court did not touch Section 5, because Section 5 is the section that clear up everything. Pre-clearance. But they hit Section 4, and in order for you to get to 5 for the pre-clearance and this and that, you have to deal with Section 4.
Yeah.
So they chopped Section 4 and this sort of thing. So now, in order for this thing to be straightened out all the way, the Congress.
They're gonna bring this up.
That's right. They're gonna have to go back
to the new Congress.
That's right.
Let me tell you what they should have done very first. Let me say when they were wrong.
Okay.
They should have made that law universal. Mm-hmm. But what they did, they want to sit there punishing the South. Well, the South was the one that was guilty. Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana. That's why all those states were denying African Americans and other people of color the right to vote.
Sure.
So what they did with the pre-clearance, said, okay, if you want to move this district from another district, if you want to streamline this district, you got to go before the Justice Department where they could see how it's going to balance the votes. Are you going to completely dilute the black vote or the other type vote? That's what the pre-clearance was. They should have said, this should apply to every state in the union. Mm-hmm. And so the South said, well, they're picking on us. That's the bottom line. But they were the one that was guilty.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because you mentioned that, and that came on the situation with the forum with the lady in Mississippi, the same one we're talking about. And she was hollering that she wanted a law in place because she's sick and tired of the federal government dipping and dabbing and going into every state and doing this and doing that.
Yeah.
We need to wipe the federal government out dealing with our business. We can take care of our own
we
state.
can't do that.
I know that, but I'm just saying, this is what she's saying.
I know what she's saying. But originally with the Act, after the 1965 Voting Rights Act, the Justice Department, wrote that up, the pre-clearance, that they cannot do anything to just review your recommendations and see just what you plan to do with this plan, and gerrymandering and all that type of stuff. But they should have said, I think there were some parts, other than some other state, New York, some parts of it, that they mentioned, along with the other 13 southern states. But if they would have made it law from the very beginning, universal, then they would not have been able to challenge that. No. So the South said, well, they're picking on us, and black folk are able to vote and all of that. So, but they're gonna bring that up in the new conference next year, though, because they got the majority in the Congress. So they're gonna revamp that part of the Voting Rights Act that was excluded.
Well, you know, I think that this issue with Stacey Abrams is going to help us out too. I think that if I understand what she's trying to do, she's trying to show the people what is really going on behind the scenes.
For sure.
And so I think that's going to help us more than anything else. Once people understand what's going on, then they can do something about it.
Okay, we're gonna come back to Georgia and let's talk about the situation here in the state, in our great state. Now we got two, and I talked to a young man who was a U.S. Senator from the state of Florida a couple of days ago, and he's a close friend of mine, and we was looking back and forth. They were supporting Georgia as well as Georgia supporting Florida, but, you know, back and forth, looking at the count and looking at all these things and see how it's going to fan out and all of these things. So I talked to him a great while, and he was telling me that, and he's going to come on the show later on before the year's out, but he was talking about the situation in Florida. Now just look at that, they won that referendum. Supposing they had that referendum on the book prior to this, they wouldn't have to worry about whether there's going to be a close vote and all this kind of thing, because that would have wiped it out. But at least
you're talking about the referendum that allowed felons to vote.
Yeah, right. So
felons to vote.
right.
Felons.
So now when they get this done, that's going to take care of some things. Now let's just say it a few minutes ago, and you mentioned about the marbles and then the bubble and the soap and all of this sort of stuff, would still yet us trying to make sure that our every vote count and we get justice for everybody. And that's why April, she did a heck of a race.
Yeah, in fact, I'd like to say that.
And here's a situation where I was looking at the numbers the other day, and they were saying, I think it was, and 87% of blacks voted from the state of Georgia, registered voter, supported her.
90-something this year.
90 was very good. Very good.
96% they say.
Very good. What I was glad of again is you have the percentage of white, because the high.
No, I was just looking at the screen. They were showing how many blacks, how many whites, and it was 96% of blacks voted for her. Yeah.
Well, high percentage of white voted for her.
A lot of whites voted for her too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why she got all of those votes. A high percentage of white voted for her, and Hispanics and what have you, high percentage of them.
And I still think so. Crooked is better.
But we're saying so too, because just like she said, even in that time, I would have rather maybe dealt with trying to count marbles and things in this modern time that we got now.
No, I don't think so.
How many jelly beans in the jar?
No, I don't think so.
How many bubbles in the bathtub?
Now here's a situation where Abra and her crew and all of us, because we're involved in this thing, we are trying to fight every day that everybody vote will count.
Should be that way.
Make it right. That's where it should be. Now she's fighting every day, trying to increase, no matter who you are, what color, what party, doesn't matter, that everybody have a fair shot at voting. And they was fighting for this every day. Now here go, I just said, what they say, the fox or something, like West say all the time. Gardener, the hen house door, the chicken, whatever.
The chicken.
But anyhow, here's the thing that and we hope that we can get this straight now, because not blaming him, because this law they put in place.
Yes.
Now he decided to run for the highest office in the state, which is the governor of the state of Georgia.
You talking about Kemp now?
Talking about Kemp. Now, first thing he should have done, and that's why they're putting a law in place now. Yeah, he should have resigned, but he didn't.
Well, I want people to understand this. We were paying. He took our money. We were paying for his campaign.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm glad to hear you say that. And so
we paid his campaign, sides and everything with the salaries and all he was making.
And all of that. That's right.
We paid for his campaign. That's the most ridiculous thing.
And what he did, he is over this. So instead of you trying to make sure that my name is Grover Thornton.
Grover J.
And Grover J. and you left the J out. I didn't put it on there. But that ain't, he, according to the rules and this and that, he can't vote unless they got to come in and they got to do this and they got to do that.
But thank the judge over do that.
So that's what happened in a lot of these situations here. That's why he won this election.
Sure.
It's a lot of votes hadn't been counted. That's right.
But you know what?
This is what we're talking about.
He's not gonna be successful, I guarantee you. Now one of the things he's advocating that I despise, I don't understand, and I'm gonna give you a practical example that helped me to realize what was going on. Now, he was against the expansion of Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
That's poor people now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Poor people. And what I can understand, how can any poor person, food stamps, which is great, Jesus said, the poor you have with you always. That's what the master said. But I'm just saying this. How can anybody, depending on Medicaid, could have voted for him?
Okay.
And I guarantee you a lot of them voted for him and on Medicaid.
Oh, yes.
And the man trying to keep him on special Medicaid. The government was going to, for 3 years, the government's going to fund Medicaid. Go fund Medicaid, and after 3 years, then the state could pick it up. They could look at the budget and reduce this or add this to make up the money to do the Medicaid situation. Now, let me just give you a practical example.
I want you to come back to that. I want to say something, and then you come right back to that. Don't lose your thought.
Okay, I just want to say my thought right here.
All right, go ahead.
Dealing with Medicare. That's one of the most important situation in this nation today is health care.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just got out of the hospital, you all know, when I had a knee operation. I was in there for 8 days, 7 to 8 days in St. Joseph Hospital. Got the bill last week. Guess what the bill was? And I didn't hardly eat the food in there because I couldn't stand it. It don't taste. $62,507. Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
I got the United Healthcare Insurance, the Medicare Advantage. I better go pay everything. How wrong was I? Get a bill the other day. They showed me my copay is $1,500 and something dollars I got to pay. So I called the hospital and made arrangements to start paying it. But I'm saying, a poor person.
That's right.
Poor person. Are you with that? $62,000, they pay $60,000, and I still got $1,500 to pay. So what about a poor person? And he don't want to extend Medicare.
Couldn't even go in there and do it. Couldn't get in the hospital.
They couldn't get nowhere around the hospital.
No, not at all.
As I'm back to my original thing, as I always say, the reason why the white people vote for that because those white women are going to follow their men. You want to tell you that, Chester?
Yeah.
Say that again now.
Listen here. I told Chester that what happens all the time is that white women are going to always support their men because their men are going to make sure they have position and power.
Yeah.
And that's been ever since slavery time when the white man used to have the black woman sleeping on the floor and the white woman sleeping in bed with him. She said, I don't care what you do with the woman on the floor as long as you take care of me. And that's how we get all these white.
Now, and later on when we get time to, when all of these counts are in and all the election is done, then we'll have a chance to do some research. And on this show, we'll come right back and show you how he won this, even with the framers and what they did here, how he won this election. And I'm talking about Kemp now, for governor of the state of Georgia, how he won this. Is poor people voting.
Yes.
Now in rural, they don't count this. And the other day around Atlanta, all these other places, even white and black who understand, college kids and what understand, their vote was in favor of April.
Yeah.
In rural America, where they needed at, the same thing
they voted for him.
They voted for him.
You know why?
Now you're going to be able to see that when we go into all of these areas and the precincts
and you can see how they voted.
And you can see how they voted. And I guarantee you that's the way
and I'm
they
telling you
voted.
I'm telling you another thing. He kept hammering that Ms. Abrams was going to give Hope Scholarship to illegals.
Yeah.
She's gonna put illegals. She's gonna put illegals on welfare.
Yeah.
And that make these poor white people upset about that. And
yes, my Lord. Here you come.
You play the race card
I'm telling you.
like that no good rascal down in Florida, Mr. Gilliam, articulate, intelligent. Very intelligent, articulate.
Oh yes.
And we can't afford to be a monkey around, calling a man a monkey. Racism. It's sad. But it's sad.
There's something. I'll tell you another thing that hurt us in this election. Because they take everything, they just ignorant.
Yes, that's all it is. Ignorant.
Now here these people line up on this caravan and stuff, coming from different countries and coming different places trying to get in and this and that. Now what they think, here goes Trump and the rest of them. They're coming to get your job. They're coming to do it and that. We're going to send soldiers. We're going to stop them from doing it. Innocent people marching. A lot of that caused a bunch of dummies, caused us to took some border with that same type of stuff. Just
that's what hopping on the racism type stuff, man. They're going to take your job. like what that man dead now, what his name was, he dead, he used to be a senator from
Talmadge?
No, not Talmadge. Oh gosh. Farrakhan couldn't stand, but anyway.
What's it?
Alabama, I think it was Alabama. No, where he was, come on, he was a senator. Racist. And anyway, what he did on his campaign, he had a sign with two hands on the black and the white one. And sign said, I'm sorry, we got to give this job to the black man.
Oh, yeah? There's a lot of people.
Played on people's intelligence about racism. That's what we just told you. It is divisive and it is permanent. You can believe that, brother.
Well, the reason why Donald Trump is in power now, right now, because he's frightened white men to know that they're getting close to the point that they are not going to be in charge.
Sure.
And this is what has got him so upset. And all y'all got to do is say, Chester, I'm going to take your job.
Take your job. And tell them what we're going to put in illegals. Same truck, ride around and say about, I'm going to ride them up in my truck and all that kind. And these poor people. Trump told the poor people in the rural area in Pennsylvania and in Wisconsin. Now, he's going to give them a tax cut in November. Now, this is November. In 10 more days and it's over. And no tax cut.
Guess what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for Trump to say that the reason why we have this outbreak with this lettuce is that these folks are coming across the border and forcing it up.
He said they're going to bring syphilis.
That's how he's going to accuse them of messing with this lettuce. You watch it.
Now, here go, she finally did it on Friday, November the 9th. April, her campaign headquarters filed a complaint in federal court asking for an injunction to direct the board of election to count the absentee ballot on the early day. This was, just filed an injunction for them to do that. But count overseas, and they wanted to make sure that the people who overseas and in the military and what have you, that to see where their votes can be counted and everything else. In the meantime, the returns show Kemp with 50.3%, in other words, 50% and then 0.3 of almost. Now these are the absent that was coming in, but now from that so that give him out of the almost 4 million voters who roughly voted, because we didn't know it, don't know the exact amount. Give him roughly, they say at that time, 63,000 vote lead over April. Kemp went on and started talking about, that's what this was saying in the paper, said Kemp and he was talking about the trickery that they did in the Deep South years ago. And we just said some of that stuff just now. who forced the state to allow, in other words, this is what happened. They forced the state to allow him to oversee his own election. That's again, we're talking about, they went back getting some of the old techniques and things that they used to use.
Yeah.
And this is what the paper was saying. Some of the other people made those statements and made him and helped make the decision for him to win. In other words, he was in charge of his own destiny. And so then April campaign manager, she was making this kind of statement about the hen house and all. She didn't say those things, but it all worked out that that's what it meant, that those kind of things that happened in that election. And then another thing, to go right on from that, is that, so we lost in this election. Instead of us gaining, we lost a statewide election. We didn't pick up, I don't think, it might be one, but I don't think it's none, that we didn't pick up any statewide office. We just like we've been before. I mean, that goes for
we didn't get none like this.
Governor, Secretary of State, everybody.
And all that.
Secretary of State, we hope we're going to count with this. We don't know how that's going to come out because they're still dealing with that. And but anyway, that's happening.
But let me
say, one thing that I was very proud about Stacey Abrams is that we have a lot of men in statewide offices, but they don't seem to have the balls to fight, you know what I'm saying? I think that what she did, what she showed all those people who came out to vote for the first time, that the fight is not over until she say it's over.
Exactly.
And I think that that's what we
She was articulate.
Yes.
What I'm looking at is, if you go back, we didn't have a black president. And the first lady ran for president was Shirley Chisholm.
Shirley Chisholm.
So look how long it was from when she ran until we got to Jesse Jackson ran. Every little bit was a little stumbling block that would be in a barrier that would be knocked down. And she really, to my judgment, she opened the door for someday for the governor of Georgia. He's going to be, just as shows by name. So same thing with Mr. Gillum. Very articulate man. And a lot of people voted for him. But they have to bring the racism card in. They got to play that racism card. And then what it does, it gets to the heart of these poor white people who feel that we're going to overstep them. You see what I'm saying? Such thing, they were both of them extremely qualified. This lady went to Ivy League school. Ivy League school she went to. Yale University, one of them. And she's very articulate.
Now, in the absentee ballot, that count the other day, just when they started counting, and they showed those numbers, that's when they opened up in the absentee ballot and they started counting. And on that same date, which was, I think it was October the 9th or what have you, but anyway, November 9th, but anyway, he had 1,589 absentee ballot in his column, in other words, that counted for him. April had, within that same period of time, 4,478. So you can see how much in that period of time, absentee ballot, how much that she, got in just in that period of time. Now, one thing about it, and I don't want to like a lot of labor folks that I work with, and a lot of white in those meetings, they'll jump up and they say, well, the Chatham County, we won, we did this and that, but I tell them, I said, see, what y'all got to understand, you the choir, there's a few of y'all who work hard and did those things, but the average one of you, your brothers and things who work with you every day, did not. They vote for the enemy. And that's the job that you all going to have to do. Look at these things, sip them out, and talk about these things.
That's right.
That's what happened is African American and all these other people, why Chatham County always mostly vote Democrat or always vote the right way. Now, at the count right there is, and it's a margin, a few people here or there, but when the count was over, Kemp had, in Chatham County, 41,356. April had 60,867 with all the pulling here and there and everything else. Then you had the Lieutenant Governor Duncans. He had, I don't know him, but anyway, he had 40,000.
Did that lady, she didn't win, did she?
No.
Cafe with myself.
Lisa Ring? Are you talking about Lisa Ring or Ashton?
After what her name was hanging over Lieutenant Governor.
Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah.
With Miss
She had
Tracy.
57,561. And I'm just talking about Chatham County.
Oh, yeah.
How they, voted in there. Barra had, Secretary of State, he had 61,915.
That was a good man.
And the person who ran against him, the Republican, 37,000 or something. But he pick up, if you go back and check it out, he pick up a lot of these voting, these little rural areas and stuff like that. And that's how they won. What you call old Buddy Carter. And doing nothing but just riding Trump coattail and everything else. His record show where he don't do anything. The tax thing the other day, they shot him all the way down. I see the morning news had a lot of stuff in there where people wrote to the editors and all these other kind of things, and these were a lot of conservative Republican and stuff looking at the situation and voting the right way and trying to get everybody else, because they're looking at issues. They're looking at what y'all discussed. We're talking about this now. Medicare, health care, Social Security, all these other things that they, and this is what's happening. And this is what that girl had. Everything was on point. And he just the other way following Donald Trump, and then got elected. Got elected again. See,
He's really wrecked this country.
Yeah, doing nothing. Now Rand had, he had 42,826. She had 59,247. And you got this. Now I look at this little fella here, the lady. She looked like she was such a good lady who was running against Ben Watson. And Ben Watson ain't doing nothing, but he had 27,290, because they're in the district now, and she didn't get about 15,693. But she looked like she had a good message and doing some things. And a lot of times people better wise up and pay attention to what's going on, because that's what's happening to us.
Well, one thing I was very proud about was what happened in Wisconsin. They got rid of that governor in Wisconsin that was really bad for that state. You remember what I'm talking about, Chester? He took on all the unions in Wisconsin.
He lost, didn't he?
Yeah, he lost. Yeah.
What's the name of? Oh yeah, got rid of unions and everything.
He messed over the municipal employees union.
Oh, yeah, right.
He's gone.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that we have to watch the way we vote and we go and do these things, because I noticed in the Florida election that you notice that somebody didn't vote for, like 50,000 votes was the difference between the white guy and the yellow. You understand what I'm saying? So that means that somebody went in there and voted for the top of the ticket and did not vote all the way down. They just voted for the white person.
Yeah.
I figured out the first time I saw those bounces come through. But
I just told you it's permanent. Didn't I just say that?
Yes.
You can't get over that.
Okay, I agree with you. It's permanent right now.
Yeah, but the only way it's going to change, like I told you, in the next 15, 20 years when you will be in the minority.
Well, this is what I would say right now.
And we'll see what it is. Right?
We have enough people right now, Thornton. We have enough people right now. If they will go
if
vote.
They vote, if
they will go vote, we have right now.
We are not for real.
I just don't know what we're going to do to encourage them to vote. You
know what's going to encourage them? I hate to say that. How many black people in Chatham County probably didn't think they have anything to lose, so they didn't go vote? You know what's going to take it? I hate to say it. You're going to have some shootings at some schools and places. People going to get their minds to get up to it. They got something to do for. Now, I've talked to one of my friends in Chicago. They got all these young kids who say, I have no reason to vote. I have no reason to vote. But now, when they come in and start all the shooting at their school, all of a sudden, they found out they do have something to vote for. I hate to say that something like this got to happen in Chatham County before all these black people decided they need to vote. I remember my brother and I were talking. We remember that my mother said to us, "You boys are going to have to leave this county because you'll get killed if you do. Because you are so active and around getting things done." I remember when we walked down the street in a small town, Chester. I'm talking real small town. Took mom and dad to rest, okay? And you got people just walking along the other side of the street like they're not paying any attention, but they're paying attention. And so when my mother said, "Dad, you and mom are going to go vote," Dad said, "Y'all don't make us do that because y'all going to get killed if you do this." Dad, somebody's got to pay the price. So mama said, "Let's go, Howard. I'm tired of these boys resting around." So we took mom and daddy down there to vote. The minute we turned around the corner to go into the grocery store to vote, white guy said, "Mr. and Miss Crenshaw, are y'all coming to vote? Come on in, we were waiting for y'all." All of a sudden, all the black people who have been meandering on the street across the street came across. So that it just got to take something to get us and see what we got to do. Mm-hmm. Now, I hate to say that, but it's going to take something like that in Chatham County. Because, when I talk to all these boys who have been in prison, they can vote, but they don't want to vote. Veterans don't want to vote. They think they have anything to vote for.
This is a funny thing I was reading in the paper the other day. Are y'all familiar with the Trump top staff person, John Kelly?
Yeah, he's chief of staff.
Yeah, he's the chief of staff, isn't he?
Yeah, but you would see what Trump was saying.
Trump ain't got no friends.
He has no
5 people got mad at assessment, fired him because he didn't participate in that Mueller probe.
Trump, in a wide-range interview that they had on Fox News Sunday, praised Kelly for his work ethic and much of what he had bring to the position, but added, "There are certain things that I don't like that he does.
He's pitiful.
There are a couple of things where it's just not his strength. It is not his fault. It is not his strength," Trump said, who added that Kelly himself might want to depart.
You fire your second people?
Asked whether he would keep Kelly in the post position through 2020. The president only offered that it could happen. He said,
"Look, all the people been indicted. Look, all the people been indicted in his administration."
Now, this is what Trump went on and said. Trump said he was happy with his cabinet, but was thinking about changing 3 or 4 or 5 positions. One of them is Homeland Security Chief.
Yeah, he want to get rid of that lady. He want to get rid of her.
Whom departure he is now considering. Trump said in an interview that he could keep her on, but he made it clear that he wished she
transfer somebody else.
Yeah. And he said especially this immigrant, the immigration and the immigration stuff, policy and stuff, this is what getting him. And then he see further down the line, certain things his hand is tied he can't do, but he want to do a lot of things.
Wow.
So you would want to be a dictator if he could.
Well,
my wife says that the man is mentally deranged.
You see what the first lady said something now they did, the first lady talking a little enough.
Look, I was looking at television one day, and there were 2 gentlemen. One of them was a psychiatrist, that's medical, and the other one was psychologist, who studied behavior, and both of them agreed on the same premise that he has a mental problem.
Yeah, my wife did early childhood education and dealt with a lot of those problems. The day he gave his speech on January 2nd, that tells him, "Westy, the man is deranged. Y'all gonna have major problems with him."
Yes.
Well, you had something over there.
Yeah, I was asking what you got there.
No, we talked about that with Abrams.
Right there?
Yeah, I talked about that. We talked about, and then you hit on some things, but let's see what.
Oh yeah, one of the things I wanted to talk about is situation dealing with
And the biggest thing was the health care.
dealing with the Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi, that woman is fantastic. Leave that woman alone. That woman get things done.
Yes, see, this is where a lot of crazy people come on. Right now, that is the most feared woman in Washington. Probably
Yes, she is. She gets things done, brother.
Between her and Maxine.
That's what
She and
Lewis
Maxine.
and some of them other black people who've been there a long time say people don't realize the thing.
Like Cummins,
She get done, she be back there. You don't know when she come to find out and see the other crew don't like her because they can't manipulate her.
Well, you know what's the most interesting thing was the lady the black woman from California who said she was going to run.
Yeah.
But Nancy done cut her out already. She already gave her a committee that she wanted. She is no longer going to run. So they said one thing they don't understand is that Nancy plays the inside draw like nobody else.
They say she knows.
She knows.
Pamela Harris.
Yes.
Pamela Harris. I know Harris is butt part of her name. She's going. They tried to get her to run. What she said? What she said? You say she said something?
No, I don't know. I don't know about Harris.
You talking about that senator?
Senator Harris
From California.
California.
Yes, I don't think she's gonna run.
When we was in Tennessee, I talked to her a good while.
And then
I got her number and stuff.
Yeah.
I supposed to call her.
I don't think she's gonna run.
And I don't think so because it's a whole lot of blacks and it's a whole lot of newcomers.
Well, you got a lot
I
of
see them
interview
that's going to be on Pelosi's time.
You've got a Muslim woman one.
See,
First time a Muslim woman is in there.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about like what's it say, the support. But I didn't realize that until I look at the thing. They said she got to have 16. She can't get below 14, I think, or something like that. That's a heck of a lot, isn't it?
Can't get below 14.
It ain't just, I mean, to secure that speaker position.
She can't lose more than 14. No, I think she can lose more than 14.
To below,
yeah.
Yeah, put that woman get things done.
It went to 14 for something.
She get things done, buddy.
I was looking at this. It 16 Democrats said they
not going to vote
will
for her.
not back new leadership. These are, in other words, now what they done is that, see, people don't realize some of the people who voted for them and stuff like they be telling you, I'm gonna support you, but I want you to go in there and get that woman out of there, something like that, you know.
Yeah.
And they like, it's like their little boy, what they did, and that person, they had no power, and one little person going in there, and all this kind of stuff.
They are talking about people don't understand that the reason why we have the Affordable Care Act is Nancy Pelosi.
That's right.
She got that through the Senate. I mean, through the House. And I think that Donald Trump knows that his days are numbered if that woman gets to be the.
Sure.
Oh yeah, he does.
I can't wait to see her sitting behind Donald Trump along with Mike Pence and Maxine Waters.
Maxine Waters gonna fix him though. She's gonna have a committee with call in subpoenas and stuff like that. She gonna fix it.
Can you imagine now when they have the State of the Union address and the Democrats have got 2/3 of the building covered? I hope just please don't let anybody call the man a liar. You know, some of those new people may just call her a liar right in the middle of the thing.
You told about 6,000 lies already since you've been in the White House. Over 6,000. I'm according to more than Jordan all that programs.
You like the more than Jordan.
I wanna, Mr. Dunham, before we leave here, I wanna show y'all something.
Okay.
I guess you looking at me.
You better
All right. With this book right here. You see this old book here?
Yeah,
Southern Exposure. I bought this book some minute 34 or 40 years. I don't know. I've had it many years. Boy, it's deal with all the racism in Georgia. Look at that lynching. There's a lynching. There's a lynching. Now, when I started reading, I read.
What's the name of it?
Southern Exposure. This book is 72 years old. Talking all about how they treated black people. Now look at here. You see that lynching? That's a lynching.
One I get every month.
And then one I want to show you here. When Herman Thomas was running for governor, you'd be surprised that one of the main companies that supported him.
I know.
in operation today. I'm just going to read this one sentence.
Is it Coca-Cola?
No, you didn't listen. You watch. I read it. You know, it's a little book. I marked up certain things on it, and was reading it. Say, on the state level, the 1946 bid of Eugene Talmadge for a comeback as Georgia governor is particularly fraught with possibilities. He has the backing not only of such corporate interests as the Georgia Power Company, but also the Ku Klux Klan. You know that. Georgia Power. Georgia Power back there was one of them. Herman Talmadge, Daddy, prime supporters.
Viewing audience, you have been listening to, looking at the Dunham Report, where you, the community, come first, keeping a focus on the future. Subscribe to our channel. Like us on Facebook, or follow us on Instagram. See you next week. Good night.